You check their Instagram at 11 p.m. and you tell yourself it's the last time. It isn't. You find their name in your phone and you don't call, but you don't delete it either. You hear a song they played in the car once, some forgettable song, and something in your chest does a thing you can't describe to anyone without sounding like you haven't moved on. And you have moved on. You know what they did. You know exactly what they did. You've explained it to your friends so many times they can recite it back to you. So why are you here, in the dark, missing someone who hurt you? Here is the thing nobody tells you about missing people who hurt you. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're confused. It doesn't mean some part of you secretly wants to go back, even when every rational piece of you knows exactly why you left. It means something very specific is happening inside your nervous system, something that has nothing to do with logic and everything to do with the way you were wired by that relationship to crave something that was never reliably there. Maybe this is you. Maybe you're the one who cried in the car after a good day because something reminded you of them, and you can't explain why good and them are still sitting in the same sentence. Maybe it's someone you love. Someone you've watched struggle to leave or come back or leave again. Someone you've tried to understand and couldn't. Someone you've quietly judged before realizing you do the same thing. Either way, what we're about to get into isn't simple. It isn't a clean answer, but it is finally an accurate one. And if you've ever been told you care too much or love too hard or that you should be over this by now, keep watching. Because what's actually happening is more specific than any of that. Before we get into the patterns, and there are 4 of them, each one a slightly different version of the same wound, you need to understand the one mechanism that makes all of them possible. Not a theory, not a buzzword, something you have already felt in your body without knowing its name. Think about the last time you got something from them. Not love, exactly. A moment. A text that felt warm, an evening where everything was easy and they looked at you like you mattered. Now think about how long you held on to that moment, how many times you replayed it when things got hard again, how that single good moment became a kind of evidence, proof that the connection was real, that you weren't imagining it, that if you could just get back to that version of them, everything would be okay. That replaying, that reaching, that is not weakness. That is intermittent reinforcement. And your brain, which is not poetic and not sentimental and is trying very hard to survive, responded to inconsistent warmth exactly like a lab animal responds to an unpredictable reward lever. Not by giving up, but by trying harder. Not by detaching, but by attaching more. The research on this is unambiguous. Unpredictable rewards create stronger behavioral bonds than consistent ones. Your brain is not broken for missing someone who hurt you. Your brain is doing exactly what brains do when they've been trained by inconsistency, chasing the hit, mourning the absence of it, and calling that mourning love because it feels just like love from the inside. Now, here's where it gets specific. There is a version of this where you miss the potential of them. Not who they were, but who you saw them becoming, who they were for that 1 month, or that one conversation, or that one night when something cracked open and they were more honest than they'd ever been, and you thought, there they are. That's the person I fell in love with. That person is real. You are not wrong. That person was real. But what you couldn't see then is that you were not in a relationship with that person. You were in a relationship with the hope of that person. And hope is an extraordinary thing to grieve because it never actually existed in a form you could hold. You weren't abandoned. You were stranded in a future that never arrived. The specific shame underneath this one is the belief that if you had just been patient enough or loving enough, or if you had said the right thing at the right time, the potential version would have stayed. And so the missing isn't just about them. It's about you and what you blame yourself for not doing to keep them. Then there is a quieter version of this, one that is easier to miss because it looks like emotional maturity from the outside. You have done the work. You understand the dynamic.
You can name the patterns in clinical language if you want to, and yet you still miss them. This is the one people feel most ashamed of, because understanding something is supposed to make it hurt less, and it doesn't. What's actually happening here is that your nervous system was, for a period of time, regulated by theirs. Not healthily, but genuinely. The chaos of them became a strange kind of home. The hypervigilance of watching their moods, the relief when they were good, the adrenaline of the repair after the rupture, all of that created a physiological rhythm your body now recognizes as familiar. And familiar is not the same as good, but your nervous system does not know the difference. What you miss is not them exactly. It's the feeling of being oriented, of knowing where you stood, even when where you stood was painful. And the absence of that orientation, the quiet of a life without that volatility, doesn't feel like peace yet. It just feels like emptiness. That emptiness is real. It is not a sign you need to go back. It is a sign your body is learning a new rhythm. But that takes longer than anyone tells you it will. But here is where it gets more complicated, because there is a third version that lives in people who would never describe themselves as someone who misses people who hurt them. You have moved on. You have the relationship after them, maybe a good one, a genuinely good one. And still, once in a while, something floods in. A smell, a sound, a particular quality of light in October. And it's not that you miss them, it's that you miss the version of yourself that existed before you learned what that kind of pain felt like. You were a different person going in. More open, maybe. More willing to believe that love was safe. And somewhere in the middle of that relationship, something closed. Not fully, but enough that you can feel the difference. The grief here is not for them. It is for your own innocence. The specific wound underneath this version is not heartbreak. It is loss of self-trust. Because they taught you, slowly, inconsistently, with enough warmth to keep you confused, that what you felt wasn't always real. That love looked like this. And so you carry them not as a person, but as evidence, proof of something you learned about yourself that you're still not sure was true.
And then there is the fourth version, the one nobody talks about, the one that sounds the least sympathetic, but is, in some ways, the most human. You miss them because they knew you, fully, specifically, in a way that felt like being seen. They knew the dark parts, the ones you don't share easily, and they didn't leave, at least not at first. And the cruelty of it is that the person who hurt you is also the person who holds the most intimate knowledge of who you are. No one else has the full map, and starting over with someone new means starting from the outside again, means explaining yourself in pieces, means years before anyone else holds the complete picture. The shame underneath this version is this, that you are still, somewhere, deep, more afraid of being unknown than of being hurt, and the person who hurt you is the only one right now who knows it all. That is not a character flaw. That is the most human thing in the world. So here's the reframe. Not a fix, not a prescription, just a different angle on the same window. Every version of missing someone you hurt you is carrying the same belief underneath it, that the longing is evidence of something wrong with you, that you are too attached, too slow to heal, too weak to let go, too irrational to be trusted with your own feelings. But what if the longing is not a symptom? What if it is a record, an accurate account of how real it was? The nervous system does not form deep attachments to things that didn't matter. The depth of what you feel now is in some uncomfortable way a measure of how genuinely you gave yourself to something. The grief is not the problem. The grief is the proof. And the question is not how to make it stop faster. The question is, what do you do with proof that you are capable of that kind of love, now that you know the cost of giving it to the wrong place? Not every wound comes with a lesson you were supposed to learn. Sometimes a person just took something from you, and it cost more than it should have, and there is no wisdom inside it that makes the bill smaller. You are allowed to miss them and know they hurt you.
You are allowed to grieve something that was also bad for you. You are complicated. The heart that keeps reaching for something it knows is gone is not a broken heart. It is a loyal one. The work is not to destroy that loyalty. The work is to slowly, imperfectly, redirect it somewhere it won't be used against you. Carry that, not the answer, the question underneath it. The one that's been there since the first time you found their name in your phone at midnight and couldn't explain to yourself why your thumb stopped before the delete button. That question already knows something you're still trying to catch up to. The most telling thing about missing someone who hurt you is not that it happened. It's which moments you keep returning to. Not the pain, the warmth, and what you choose to do without information. That's yours.